Now, Bruna, can I ask you a question? I'm curious to know, how did you get to translate? How did it come about translating the words that remain? Could you please tell us more about it?
Yeah, thank you. I'll be speaking in English, but let me just say one sentence in Portuguese for my mom because she's watching it. Oi, mãe, tudo bem?
Cristina. Hi, Mom. Hello.
Tá bom,
Oi,
beijo.
amiga.
Oh,
Beijo.
Hi, honey.
she
Hello.
responded. Muito bem, obrigada por ter respondido. Okay,
Thank you
so
for
my mom is
answering,
in the
Mom.
audience. It's rare that we get to do events together because they're not normally translated for her. And she doesn't speak English, so I'm glad today she's here. So thank you for the interpreting, Beatriz. Yeah, so I had done a reader's report on this book for a literary scout, an international agent. So I had read it before. I wrote a very complimentary report saying how much I loved it. And I kind of fell in love with the book right away. I thought the lyricism of the sentences it was just beautiful. And I had to move on to the next book. No one was offering me this book or anything. I didn't know that any publisher would be interested in it. But then I kind of couldn't shake the book. I couldn't stop thinking about it. And when I wrote the reader's report, there was a sample from a translator. And the way that those initial samples work sometimes is that the agent or the publisher just asks any person, anyone, any translator, oh, would you do this? So that they have a little bit, they can give, the people they're pitching the book a taste of the project, meaning there is not much of a concern with fit, or is this, the right translator for this particular project? Is this person interested in this kind of literature? It's the gig economy. It's something that I sometimes take on projects like that. It's just a project that I do. And but it was clear to me right away that the translator wasn't the right translator for the project. Even though, I mean, I love their work, they have incredible translations that I have on my shelf and that I cherish. It just wasn't the right tone at all. And it wasn't just the right voice, in the same way that I can't write everything. Like I can't write satire, so I don't go translating satire. I felt that the tone was way too folksy for the book, not lyrical enough, that it highlighted the foreignness of the regionalism for foreignness sake. And I took it to Twitter, as one does, to complain about translations of books from the northeast of Brazil, often getting that kind of treatment. The, rural voice, Southern Gothic treatment that I don't actually think does the literature any kind of service. And then I often would hear from publishers that books from the Northeast wouldn't do well, they're too niche, they don't sell. But then I felt that, of course, they wouldn't sell. They weren't getting the right kind of treatment to begin with. So why would these books do well? It felt like it was kind of like self-sabotage going on. They weren't set out to succeed. So later I got an email, even though I didn't name the book or the project or anything. I got an email from Michael Wise, the editor at New Vessel Press, saying that he had acquired this book and asking me then if I was so critical of other people's work, what I would do differently. And I thought that was a brilliant question, not the kind of question I expected, but a smart question to ask. Instead of just saying, like, give me a sample then, and then he would judge for himself. He's like, what would you do differently? What is the ethos behind the choices you would make then? And then I did send him a little sample of different passages with kind of a manifesto, I guess, or a little essay explaining my decisions there and why I'd done that differently. I think especially in the many scenes of great violence, it was very, very important to get the tone just right, so that they wouldn't come across as humorous, they wouldn't come across as less poignant than they were, less intense, sharp. So I focused on the most difficult scenes in the book in the email I sent back to Michael. explaining what I would do. And in short, what I told him is that I wanted the text to be witty and to have an oral quality to it, but never to be so foreign that it didn't serve the characters. Like, you kind of have to tune into the character radio, you know? And when I was tuned in, they couldn't be talking like, they couldn't be, oh, you know, gosh darn it all the time, because then that was giving too much distance. I couldn't get to the truth of who they were. So I kind of used more of an emotional compass than, you know, being preoccupied with kind of the, I guess, the apparatus, whatever ornament was on the surface, especially because I don't think this is a very ornamental text. I actually think it's sincere and unadorned in the right way. So yeah, so that's how I got to the book. It was, I guess, out of trying to advocate for books from the Northeast, and also in trying to shift, you know, the current translation trends, or not current, more from the 1980s, but the old translation trends that would make literature from the Northeast, would turn it into some kind of quote unquote peasant, foreign, exotic literature, as opposed to something contemporary and fresh that reflects the way that people talk right now.
Or like an American Western, right? Equivalent.
Yes, it feels dated in all the wrong ways. Like, they think they're translating a very, very old relic, as opposed to, this is just how people talk. I know them. I talk that way at home. And, you know, there's no need to turn them into any kind. This is not a caricature. I'm not pretending to have an accent. I'm not putting it on so that people will be like, oh, do you see where these people is from? I'm speaking genuinely. And that was what I was interested in with this book, just speaking genuinely the way that the characters speak, as opposed to, I am doing a bit, or I'm doing a voice, I'm putting on some kind of costume. There's no costuming. It is what it is. Like, this is who I am. Yeah.